Welcome everyone to episode 2 of Retro Encounter, where we play through Final Fantasy X and talk about it. I'm Josh Curry, and with me is Mike Sollosi.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you got that name right the first time.
Yeah. They don't know that's the 10th recording, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't gonna say anything.
It's shattered now.
I gave it away.
And that beautiful
what
voice
happened to not pronouncing last names?
is Peter Triezenberg.
Hello, and you got that right too. Congratulations.
Oh, now the pressure's on for the third one. And that's the hardest one. And as you probably heard, the final voice is Caitlin.
Argyros.
Oh, I was just gonna stop at Caitlin.
I can pronounce my own last name. Thank you very much.
So, we have been playing more Final Fantasy. We've been interrupted by trips and E3, but we've soldiered on. And it seems like the only...
soldiered on E3.
In the immortal words of Stained, it's been a while.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, there were some setbacks. There were a couple almost recordings that didn't happen. But we have played a lot more Final Fantasy X, and I think we're ready to talk about it.
Oh, and
some of us have played a lot more. I'm
Right.
joining you because Steven just got back from E3 with all of our other RPG fan people and has a lot to do. Obviously, there's a lot that went on at E3, a lot to say, to talk about, and couldn't make this episode, so I'm here to fill in. And was kind of last minute, so I haven't played this game in a long time. So bear with me when I talk about stuff and get stuff wrong and get confused about what happened when, who's that character, and I don't remember that boss.
if it makes you feel better, Caitlin, this is the first set of games that you're on that you haven't played. This is now officially Steven's second set of games that he will not finish for this podcast.
I'd say that I won't tell him you said that, but he's gonna hear it anyway.
Yeah, I'm very excited for him to hear about that.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm far enough along that I'm definitely finishing this game now. I think we were supposed to have played what was it? Through Makalania Temple?
Yeah, with the Battle of the Wendigo or whatever.
Right.
Something
God.
about Seymour is what I remember.
Yeah, Wendigo is right after the first Seymour fight.
Simo?
Seymour. Yep, Seymour. Or
Nice to see Mo.
It's either right before or right after the first Seymour fight.
That's
It's right
his,
after.
Yeah.
gangsta name.
Seymour Green.
Nice to see Mo. What is this?
He'd be so much cooler if he had auto-tune on his voice.
Yeah, instead he has that vague lilting voice that just screams child molester. It's weird.
See, it was the awkward horns that got it for me.
And he needs to put on a real shirt and not this not like this thing that opens up at his navel and then just sort of drapes. It's weird.
What I want to know is, are those tattoos or is that chest hair that he has?
Chest hair.
I think it's chest hair.
He's keeping it sexy.
Okay, because in the HD remake it looks more like a tattoo. Maybe that's just how the texture turned out.
He's like, I don't know, he's like weird early 2000s anime Russell Brand or something. He just, yeah, he has this like vague creepiness to him, and he should be wearing more clothes than he's wearing.
He needs to fire his stylist, his hairstylist.
No kidding.
I mean,
So is that actually hair, or is that his, like, is that like a horn? Like, I don't
I think
understand
it's
what's
hair.
going on with that.
I think it's hair.
I
don't know. It was weird.
Guados in general, at first I thought it was antenna, but I mean he's half human, but he's.
What does that even mean?
I don't know, man. He can definitely use a fashion consultation though. I don't even know what he's wearing.
And some nail files.
Oh right.
Guys, Seymour put a lot of time into his morning primping. We shouldn't judge him.
I'm gonna judge the hell out of him.
His cocaine nails?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of Final Fantasy villains, especially in the earlier era, had that thing going for them where it's kind of like they're edgy and yes, I know my outfit or my hair or whatever is ridiculous, but don't judge me. I'm gonna destroy the world because you're judging me.
Okay, I would 100. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say nothing beats Cujo's man.
Yeah,
but...
I was gonna go in a similar. I 100% believe Cujo would say what Caitlin just just said, because
What?
I mean, Kuja's like, he's not even wearing pants where he should have pants. It's man.
He's basically just wearing a swimsuit bottom.
And he is weird and moody enough that he would destroy the world if someone complained about his outfit in front of him.
But that's a Final Fantasy for another day. We should
Right.
probably stick to 10.
Right.
So
So,
I'm-
10.
On Seymour, did anybody? I know all of us have already played this game once, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember way back in the day, the first time you ever played? Did you ever think he was going to be even semi-decent of a person?
No.
Oh no. I was immediately creeped out by him, and I was sure he was gonna be a villain. I think at first I thought he was gonna be like the final villain, but no, he's whatever.
I think
he's just a recurring.
I think the emaciated mummy thing that serves as his summon, that is also his mother, spoiler alert, kind of gives it everything away.
Yeah, you're not a good guy when that is like your special power.
It's like, oh.
It's like
So-
the haircut, the sort of rapey voice, and then that giant mummy monster does not indicate he's a good fella. At least to me.
So you're saying he has mommy issues?
Well, yes, he 100% does. I'm a little bit probably too far in the game, but they actually go into the mommy issues specifically if you find Baj Temple right after you get the airship. Which was illuminating to me, because the first time I played the game I had not done that, but I just doing some endgame stuff. It goes into detail his mommy issues and how he got that Aeon, which is not one of the 5 main Aeons of the game, and yeah, etc.
So, go ahead.
If you summon her during the final Seymour fight, then there's some extra dialogue you get too.
Oh, I didn't do that. Or
Yeah,
actually, I don't think
during-
I've hit the final Seymour fight yet.
Yeah, during that, it's more a thing for the next podcast. But yeah, there's a little bit of extra dialogue if you summon Anima during that fight. It's pretty cool.
I will have to do that now. I did not know that.
So for me, it was one of those kind of like the first impression, everything. Like, yeah, he's gonna be this terrible person. But after you do the Al-Bed, where they try to use all of the Machina to destroy Sin.
Oh
and he
yeah,
actually-
Operation Mihen. Yeah.
So he actually joins your party, and that was I remember like that really throwing me for a loop the first time I played, because most times I feel like if somebody enters your party, they at least sort of stay, or like I don't know that I just remember that making it so I assumed that he was going to be part of our party again.
Huh.
I guess it's like the one time Sephiroth joined your
Yeah.
party.
I was just gonna say, because
I mean,
that
yeah, in the first Lunar game, the final villain of the game joins your party for a minute and then immediately turns evil, like in the next scene. So it's not like there's no precedent for this, but it was a little bit of a twist, like someone who I assumed was evil, just very obviously being your ally and protecting Yuna for that Operation Mihen scene. Yeah, I didn't think of that. I was just always creeped out by him, so there was no doubt in my mind ever that he was the villain.
well, he's got an ulterior motive to want to protect Yuna at that point.
Creepily proposed to her.
Yeah.
Weird planet world thing. Yeah. I don't know. But I also, as creepy as he was, he would have been a kick-ass party member.
Yeah, he seemed to have a lot of magic in his sphere grid.
Yeah. So I was actually really excited for it. I remember thinking he's going to leave. He's going to come back towards the end of the game because he's so overpowered. He's going to fit in right there, like in those final segments, and be able to help out. And obviously that's not the case.
But can you imagine if they had skits, if that happened and they had skits like the Tales games and everyone's just sitting around talking, and I don't know how he would fit in with the dynamic that the group has.
Like they try to awkwardly get Seymour to join in on like making dinner or something.
Like having a Final Fantasy 15 style road trip with these 7 relatively normal characters that get along, and then Seymour just sitting there.
Yes.
His voice lilting weirdly.
Even better if it was Fire Emblem-esque, so you could have him next to like
no.
Lulu.
I would want to hear his support conversation with Riku. That would get weird quick.
And all of a sudden, everybody's having kids with Seymour. Yeah.
Whoa. All right.
that went somewhere.
I think that's a good image to move on from.
I thought you were just gonna say that's a good image to end the podcast on.
Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
we're-
All right,
over.
see you
Yeah,
next
right
week
here.
for episode 2-3. Yeah, well, whatever. Seymour's a creep. But after all that is, well, actually, right before all.
So I think now comes the time where we must discuss the Blitzball.
The Blitz.
The worst
Teach us
thing in the
how to
world.
blitz.
Oh God. That's that.
On the one side, we have Josh Curry. On the other side, we have Mike Sollosi.
And one of us is right, and his name starts with a J.
Which side is the I hate this? Why they do this? I don't want to play this.
That's the Josh Curry side.
I'm on your side then, bro.
I'm sorry, Mike. You're outnumbered.
Yeah, that is absolutely horrific. I only played it twice. I played it twice because I had to win in that tournament game. But yeah, both times, second half, I do the jack shot, and as the jack shot is flying towards the goal, they blow the whistle, sub out Titus, end that play so I don't score a goal, and I went to like 8 or 9 overtimes in both games. And it was impossible for me to score. I just watched everybody swim in circles, acting like idiots.
Yeah, see, just so we don't get before we get like too much into Blitzball, I've my tune on it. I used to hate it. Like it absolutely used to be my least favorite mini game in like all of Final Fantasy. I've played it a lot more on this playthrough, and I'm actually kind of having fun with it. But I do think the lead up into it with that first championship game is really bad. Like the fact that they don't teach you how to play until you're literally at the championship. I hate that.
Yeah, they do sort of throw you in a little bit too early, because there's a couple rough things about that first game. First of all, the Aurochs are terrible, and
Fuck!
and then the second thing, it's really hard to win that game if you don't have the eject shot. And that reminds me, I think in the forums after the first episode aired, someone wanted to ask, did we all get the eject shot on our first try on the boat?
Not on the first try. I reset the game a few times.
I don't remember. I know I had it, so.
So you
I
must have
must
at least
have gotten it.
eventually got it.
Yeah.
I got it on the first try.
I did too, but when I played the game 10 years ago, I definitely had to restart and try again.
I never got it the first time through.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know it existed back when I played.
But that's a good point that, except for Titus and Waka, the rest of the team sucks. And it's kind of hard to start like that and to want to keep going and build them up when you only have 2 decent players. And really one of them is the one you want doing all the work, and he can't do all the work. It's supposed to be a team game.
Yeah,
Oh,
your teammates are not good, and the way I did win the Luka Goers game on my first try, but I got pretty lucky. I basically just passed the ball a lot and played defense the entire first half, and the second half I learned the eject shot and I pulled everyone offside, and then passed to Titus near the middle, eject shot, clear out 2 defenders, goal, and then just played keep away ball the rest of the game. It was a very ugly 1-0 victory. But I mean, that is about as bad as Blitzball gets in the game. Once you're out there, out in the world recruiting people, and you have a little bit more control over what your roster can be, the game is less busted and more fun and better in general.
Nope.
I'm not gonna say that the game doesn't get better, but it definitely doesn't put its best foot forward.
I think it's. Go ahead.
I still just sort of don't agree with the just the general format of how the game plays out. I mean,
Oh, no.
I don't like the whole. I get it's an RPG within an RPG, but it feels so stilted because every time you encounter defenders, you have to stop and look at your move. It doesn't feel like it would feel if you were actually playing this. I mean, if we could play this in real life. So
Well,
It should be real time.
Yeah,
It
should
would
be
make
real
more
time.
sense in real time, but I mean, it's I don't even know how to approach this. It's basically I don't think I need to explain the game to you exactly, but I don't mind the sort of weird turn-basedness of it. It's really just a game about positioning and just drawing the stupid AI off of their mark. Because if you have the eject shot, the game is almost, and you have decent stats on your other players so they can get people into position, the game is almost too easy. I mean,
So that's not worth playing. Thank you for proving my point.
Well, okay, but let me ask
No.
you, how long does it take you to get through a match? Like, it takes a long time, even if you
like 8 to
have-
10 minutes.
Oh, okay, I must have had sucky people. I remember it taking me a lot longer to get through a game, and that was the other problem. It takes time, and it feels stilted as a result.
That's because, Caitlin, it felt like forever. Because it is the worst thing. It probably was 8 minutes. I fully believe that's how long it was.
It's at least 10.
It
because
feels like
I
eternity.
probably started. I mean, once because before I say exactly how much Blitzball I've played, could you each go through how many games you've played of Blitzball in this playthrough? Just
one league.
So one league, which is 10 matches.
Holy crap.
And Josh, how many did you? You said you just played like 2 or 3.
I did the 2 for that championship game because I got mad that I lost the first time.
Okay. Now, not counting the championship game, I've played around 65 or 70 matches.
Holy crap!
And I got the Jupiter Sigil, which is like the sort of the biggest reward for Waka's ultimate weapon, right around match 50 or 55, and then I played another 10-15 more. So yeah, that's where I am right now in Blitzball. I've enjoyed it a lot. I've sort of made it my podcast game where I throw it on, play some matches while I'm listening to a podcast. And man, I think once you have control over your roster and can develop the team how you want to, it's a lot more fun. But I'm gonna back up a little bit and not talk about Blitzball specifically, but I think it's a good idea, at least, in terms of it being a sort of pervasive side quest and minigame. It's kind of like Triple Triad or Tetramaster from 8 or 9, where a bunch of NPCs in the world can be involved in it, and you get rewarded by encountering these NPCs and sort of investing in them a little bit. It's sort of a pervasive minigame that can stretch through the whole game. But unlike those, instead of being a nice simple card game, this is a weird stilted sport where it's hard to tell when the clock's running and when it isn't running. like Josh, you mentioned that it happened to you twice that you shot eject shot and the timer ran out as the animation was going on.
It was at the 2.5 mark or whatever the half mark is, where they sub out Tidus for Waka.
Right. That is incredible. That is so weird to get used to because the timer runs during pass animations and shooting animations, which are way too lengthy, and I think I would like the game better if they were quicker, but doesn't during challenges and tackles. So it's really weird to get used to the timing of all that. But once I did a tiny bit of recruiting right after the events in Luca, I got a pretty good team, and I never lost a game of Blitzball after that. It's fun once you get used to the basic mechanics of it and get rid of some of the really crappy Aurochs on your team.
I couldn't ever be bothered to devote enough time to it to do that. I don't believe I ever did all the work you could do to get. Is it Waka's ultimate weapon or is it a limit break?
I think both.
Both. You get all of his limit breaks from Blitzball tournaments, and you get the sigil for his ultimate weapon by in the reward, and that's the one that takes a long time to get. I got it in about 50 matches, and I think that's close to the minimum number that you have to play to get it, because you can't get the sigil until you have the other 3 reels, and each of those 4 things, 3 reels and the 1 sigil, requires it being a reward in a 10-game Blitzball league. One of them might be a tournament instead of a full league, but yeah, it takes a while. And if you don't want to do all of that, I totally get it, because 50 games of Blitzball is a lot. And I'm definitely an exception to the rule in that I liked Blitzball enough to play that much. But even if you aren't planning on getting that sigil, I think it's a good idea to do the one league or one tournament or whatever it takes to get attack reels, because that Waka limit break is the most damaging move in the game. That move carried me through every single boss fight. Attack reels is great.
I don't know.
Here, folks.
I think I was OP'd enough I didn't need it.
I guess
By the
so,
end of
but
the game.
it's the strongest move in the game, at least that I've used.
I'm just not willing to do that.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think the reward is enough for me.
Yeah, I can respect what you're saying.
If it like had led to an extra, oh sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
If it like led to like extra content like story-wise for Waka or whatnot, maybe that would have been more of a reason for me to go through with it. But I didn't need a limit break or his weapon to totally trounce endgame bosses. So it's just kind of like, okay, no thank you.
I'd rather never finish the game and not have to play another game. Blitzball.
Oh yeah, you still haven't finished the game. All right, I forgot.
Yeah, I stopped the second fight of Seymour. last
Okay.
time.
Well, I mean, I like Blitzball. I think it's fun recruiting people all over the world and playing it. And one unusual thing, at every single one of Rin's travel agencies, there's a really good Blitzball player at almost every single one.
Oh, really?
Like-
That's
like-
interesting.
Like my two best players, other than Titus, are both random Albeds that I got at Rin travel agencies. And one of them is like has been my best defender the whole game. Is the Rin's travel agency right outside of Luca. So I recruited like a midfielder and a goalie in Luca, and then I got a defender at that travel agency right on the Mihen High Road, and then I used that to get attack reels basically right outside of Luca. And yeah, I mean I get not liking Blitzball as much as I do, but I still think as a side quest that changes as you can recruit more players in new areas. I think it's a pretty cool idea for a side quest. Maybe the pace of the game is weird that it doesn't really ultimately pay off on the really interesting idea of managing and coaching and being the star player of your own sports team, which I guess is weird. But I think it's a cool idea that mostly delivers. But 50 games is a lot to get Waka's best sigil.
Yeah, I agree. And this is not even fair to this game specifically. But I'm always torn with this because I love doing everything. But when you have these kind of world quests, the world's going to end, we need to do this, it's super important. Like everybody's gonna die tomorrow. Going on some of these side quests where definitely this is like a recreational type thing. It always kind of there's that little narrative dissonance. I know it's not fair to this specifically. I think it's easier for me to get upset about it because I really hate this side quest.
Right.
It's like how in Final Fantasy VIII, when on disc 4, when the world's basically ended, but you can leave and go play Triple Triad with they're the people who survived the apocalypse are the Triple Triad players.
Yeah, one of the ones I think that's the worst is Mass Effect 2. Which spoilers for Mass Effect 2. But after your whole crew's kind of taken. And they at least have a punishment if you don't go and save everybody right away. But if you want, you can just wander away and do like 2-3 missions.
Yeah, you can totally go back to Omega and just hang out and go out for drinks or something while your entire ship was abducted.
Yeah, and as long as you do, I think it's if you play 3 missions, then it's a negative effect. But if you do 1 or 2, completely fine. You can just go off and do whatever you want, and then everybody will still survive.
Oh no, you didn't.
What?
Yeah.
You brought up Mass Effect 2.
Is that a problem? I like Mass Effect.
Don't get me started talking about Mass Effect because
Okay.
This podcast will never
Sure.
end.
All right.
Yes.
Mass Effect 2
maybe that can be a future episode of Retro Encounter.
Mass Effect 2 is in my top 5 games of all time, so I'm not talking shit about Mass Effect 2.
You guys are complaining that Final Fantasy X wasn't retro enough. Well, we're going to talk about Mass Effect 2 on Retro Encounter.
That's I think what is that, a 2011 game?
Because we can.
2010 maybe.
2010, yeah.
You know the worst part is
I was a different person when I was 5 years ago. Sure.
doing all
I know
the
I was.
E3 coverage. I seemed like I kept having to write or at least view stuff for Bravely Second, and I kept looking. It's like we should do Bravely Default on Retro Encounter.
That game came out in 2012 in Japan and last year in the United States.
And technically, our rule is it has to be older than a year, but we're shooting for older than 2 years.
Oh,
So
I wasn't aware that was the rule, but okay.
That's the hard set rule that we set which basically means you can play anything as long as it's not brand new. We've just skewed older because there's so much good games to be able to play.
Oh yeah, I mean we have a near infinite wealth of possible games for future Retro Encounter episodes, and we encourage listeners to send us emails at retro@rpgfan.com or go on the forums and suggest games for us to play. We love hearing from you guys. But
to just throw it in there as a teaser, we're going to announce our next game at the end of this podcast.
Okay, sure.
Just
I'm
keep
I'm
you in
still not
suspense.
sure. I don't think we totally know which one of I'm not sure if I'm going to volunteer for that episode yet. But yeah. So back on FF10, where are we? Blitzball's the greatest. We already established that.
Okay, it's my turn. It's my turn to be negative.
Okay, all right.
It's my turn to be negative. Those stupid sphere puzzles in the Cloister of Trials are the worst thing ever. Disgust.
Really?
Really? Those are super easy.
I like them.
Oh my god! I like how we just switched sides.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Okay, I'm actually on Peter's side with this. They totally. I mean, the logic of them doesn't. I don't like it. I mean, this is
The logic of them.
this
You
game
insert a
does
ball
not
into
have-
a hole.
Okay, all right. This
Okay,
game does
it's a
not
lot of-
have dungeons with puzzles. It doesn't. Like
a lot of
every
really
dungeon is
boring.
is just a corridor. So instead of dungeons with real puzzles, they give us these stupid sphere puzzles in the cloisters of trials. I did not like any of them.
It's just a bunch of really boring. Like, put the thing in the thing, push the thing in this specific sequence. If you screw up, you'll have to reset it and do it over again. But make sure you do the extra hidden thing in order to find the hidden thing so you can get the secret Aeon. And I don't know, it's annoying and it breaks the pace, and I hate it. And
So you're gonna say that this breaks the pace, but
Blitzball
does not?
yes, that is exactly what I'm saying.
I had to
I
censor
agree.
myself because I almost had 7 swear words in a row, and I'm sure you guys wouldn't be happy with that.
Okay, but you know what? For the most part, Blitzball is optional, and you don't have to win that first game.
True.
You have to do at least 5 sphere puzzles. And they all suck.
I guess my only problem I have with the cloisters is not necessarily the puzzle. I'm fine with that. I actually kind of found that enjoyable. I wish there was some sort of group activity, fight, whatever, doing something, instead of just wandering into a room, waiting 10 minutes, and then having her come out with Aeon.
Yeah, I guess my problem with the sphere puzzles isn't with the puzzles themselves. It's that the game doesn't really have dungeons. There's just, you just have these long corridors for field maps and more corridors in interior areas. But then out of nowhere, you'll have these no combat puzzles that aren't totally intuitive and will actually bite you in the ass and lock you away from end game content if you don't do the destruction fierce puzzles, which Peter alluded to earlier. Because I'm playing the HD-Remastered version of it, which is uses the international version of FF10, and 2 of the puzzles, of 2 of the temples, it's one of them's Besaid and I forget the other one. If you don't get the destruction spheres then you have to beat a Dark Aeon to access them again. Which is...
I think it's...
Go ahead, which one is it?
I actually just slipped my mind. I think it might be Kellica, but I'm not sure.
It's... I don't remember which one it is, but it's... 2 of them you get locked away from if you don't get the the destruction spheres the first time, and Dark Aeons are like super end game bosses that you need to have near max stats in order to even scratch.
So you're being a final person to get a final item. I don't see the problem with that.
It's not even a final item. Like those items you can get just the first run through, and you need all of those items to get anima. So like you won't be able to get these Aeons unless you beat these super duper end game super bosses.
It doesn't so much lock away end game content as it does lock away interesting story content.
Yeah, that's true.
And the fact that the Dark Aeons are, and this is probably something we'll go into more detail on in the last show, but the fact that the Dark Aeons are so kind of awkwardly thrown into the game at random points, like it makes getting them, if you miss them, it just makes it that much more difficult.
And that, I hate to hammer on this point again, but I still am bummed out by the lack of a real world map in FF10. It makes backtracking really frustrating, and because by the time you're allowed to freely backtrack anywhere, you have Dark Aeons locking you away from like specific parts of the game. So if you don't backtrack all the way to Besaid Island at the moment you unlock those Ject Spheres, then you can't get the Ject Sphere there without beating the Dark Aeon. So it's like backtracking is a real bummer until you get the airship, and once you get the airship, a bunch of stuff is sealed away by Dark Aeons, and that sucks. I wish this game had a real world map.
Sure. Okay. I don't have a problem with anything that you're saying. It does suck, but at the same time, like, it's one of those things you're not supposed to casually, just awkwardly have, like, come across all of that. It's supposed to be you're coming through on a second playthrough or third playthrough that you actually understand the game to be able to get end game content. That's kind of the whole idea of that whole concept.
I don't think of it as end game content. Like the Ject Spheres I was talking about, those are the ways to unlock all of Auron's overdrives. That's something that should be, like, that you should maybe gradually learn over the course of a game, even if it's the first time you play the game. And necessitating backtracking to get all of them or most of them is a real bummer. And having parts of the game gated away by these Dark Aeons after you get the airship that lets you travel anywhere is also a bummer. I think that if the game was a little bit more like I say traditional, but like an older Final Fantasy game with a world map that you could that would let you backtrack, the world would seem a little bigger and more of the game would be accessible the first time through. And I think that even though Final Fantasy X is a really well-told linear story and a very beautiful game in general, I think that's a detriment to it. That backtracking is really hard to do.
Well, on the other hand, though, if there had been no backtracking, it would have been 13, because that was essentially 13. 13 had almost no backtracking. And people had issues with it because it felt like it was just a point A to point B, traveler's corridor, game, you know.
It feels more like a corridor, and it makes the game world feel smaller, I think. If you don't have a giant world map to walk through and like become part of your experience.
Well, I think part of it, though, is that this is the first Final Fantasy on PS2, and they did a lot of firsts. I mean, it was much more cinematic, graphics, obviously, voice acting, and I think part of them trying to reimagine the formula and sort of take it into the modern era was to say, hey, do we really need world maps? Aren't world maps and the sort of, super, deformed characters that you have traveling them, isn't that a little bit old school? Maybe we should try to make it a more organic experience that feels like just one continuous story instead of having this gigantic world map.
Absolutely. I completely and utterly agree with Caitlin. And to go full defense force for Final Fantasy 13.
Oh boy.
Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with walking down a straight corridor.
I think straight corridors are a lot more boring than fully realized dungeons that have more to them than just occasionally going to an alcove to pick up an X potion.
I agree, it's absolutely lazy. I don't think it's the best game design. But going back to what I was just talking about with side quests, there's supposed to be a purpose to like you're moving in a direction. And yes, that is the absolute simplification of that. But you shouldn't be going to the final fight, final boss, save the world, and be like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to Besaid. Just hang out on the beach. Just stand in the water. Good times, right? Like, remember how the whole game started like this? No.
Yeah.
Well,
You shouldn't do that.
13
Why not?
does give you the option to go back down to the surface and grind a lot, but that's for its like one side quest. But I agree with what you're saying. Even though people complain a lot about Final Fantasy 13 missing a bunch of features from past Final Fantasy games, but it is focused on what the story it's trying to tell.
And I actually think 13 actually gives a more concise story than basically any other Final Fantasy because of that.
Ooh, that's
Ooh.
a discussion
That's
for another
that
day, I
was-
think.
No comment.
There's a chocobo in his hair.
I agree.
Yeah, there's a chocobo in his hair, and if the sequels are canon, then that chocobo becomes the shopkeeper.
That's like
Wait.
the best storytelling I've ever heard in my life.
You mean Chocobo Kalina or whatever her name is?
Yeah, chocobo Kalina. I mean, Shakespeare's got nothing on that. I'm gonna show myself out now.
Chocobo,
Yes.
chocobo, wherefore art thou chocobo?
Here's my boot. Take it with you.
It might be useful if you, the master of chocobos, take it with you.
I feel like the
Calm
PS2
down.
the PS2
Master
era
Life.
specifically, like the PS3. Well, definitely when we got to 360 era.
Okay, well, which PS are we talking about now?
So it started in PS2. PS3
did?
and Xbox moving forward to that, we had this transition from kind of open or very little or no storytelling just in games in general. And I think definitely in that 360 era, we went so far over to a very linear experience, but we had this huge transition into focusing on story. Kind of more having a cinematic view, having an actual concise storytelling. And I think Final Fantasy X is kind of one of those games that, in a lot of ways, you could say falls in that transition period, where they're still having some sort of freedom, but they're still having that linear kind of drive because they're trying to focus more on these cinematic movies that they spent crap tons amount of money on to make them look gorgeous. And I feel like that's kind of the direction they were moving, is to make sure that you got wrapped up in the characters in this storyline. I think it was a design decision. I actually have no problem with it.
Well, okay, I mean, it was a design decision, and like comparing the older Final Fantasy games and their sort of more open exploration to the the more linear presentation of 10, and sort of not equating that, but also at the same time talking about the open world trend of the PS3 360 era and the more cinematic Final Fantasy 13. I don't think those are totally the same trend exactly, but it definitely is a design choice making Final Fantasy 10 and 13 as linear as they are, and frankly, it doesn't appeal to me as much as a game that has a little bit more freedom and the ability to backtrack, especially since they make backtracking rewarding with things like those Ject spheres and going back for destruction spheres if necessary, and even recruiting Blitzball players. Like, backtracking is rewarding, but then the changes with the dark aeons gating it away and making it so cumbersome to backtrack before you have the airship. I think I don't think that totally works. It's a little bit dissonant in how they balance it out, and I think that's a weakness of the game.
And I think that's why 12 is a better game.
12 feels a lot larger than 10.
It does.
And it has it doesn't really go back to a old world map in exactly, but it like the
But there is a world
very large maps and the way that it arranges its gameplay spaces, I think is much better than 10. Yeah. And I say that as someone who I guess in general I prefer 10 to 12, but
I-
yeah.
I haven't. Everybody, I think, at this point knows that 12 is my favorite Final Fantasy.
Mine too.
Yeah. See, this is why we brought her on today.
Exactly.
All of
Evolution
my favorite
design.
Final Fantasies were made before the year 2000, but
It's all part of our evil plot to hijack the podcast to talk about 12.
Yeah.
Where's that HD collection?
Yes.
Yeah. 12 is.
I would try 12 again if we got the Zodiac version on HD. I would.
Oh, we're getting it. There's no way it's not happening.
It's Square. They love repackaging the same thing and making us buy it repeatedly.
How many? I think I have 6 copies of Final Fantasy IV to prove your point.
Yeah. 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 So I agree with what you're saying. It's not even necessarily a story thing, but a lot of times you feel a more attachment to the story, like the world. I agree. It's something that you lose in 13. It's something you lose to a certain extent with 10. Whereas, just to use 12 as an easy example, it felt more like a living, breathing world, and so you kind of get caught up in things. And I think in that regard, then if you do hit a couple snags, like you don't like Blitzball, or you don't like this boss, or you don't like this or that, I feel like it kind of gives you a greater attachment that you'll push through that.
Well, then, I don't know, maybe the happy medium is to not necessarily have an overworld that you move on, a la, 7, 8, 9, but to have a world map that you can interact with to facilitate traveling between places like 12. To
Yeah.
sort of get you that scale of the world and let you see where places are and feel the sort of the lay of the land without necessarily having to do the overworld map exploration.
And on that, I adore 4. I absolutely do. But there's large periods of time that's like, why am I in an airship? Why am I in a drill ship? Like, why
am I in another airship? Why am I flying a giant whale ship?
Yeah,
There's a ship problem with FF4. I'll give you that.
But it's one of those things you kind of lose your thread of what's going on because it is so open. Which in some regards that's what I love about it. I would just wander around for hours just grinding things out because I enjoyed fighting and just moseying around.
Well, I mean, doing that also you run into the old JRPG problem of, okay, it's not totally well communicated where I'm supposed to go next. Where in FF10 you have this convenient red arrow always telling you pointing you to the direction of the next place.
At least it's not the breadcrumb system of Fable, so we're still doing okay.
Oh, can I talk about one weird pet peeve? I don't even know if it's a pet peeve, but it's just something I noticed playing FF10. A lot of the time, to get to the next story place, all you have to do is just try and exit the room. It's happened like 8 times, I swear. It's like, okay, who am I supposed to talk to? I'm talking to everyone, I don't really know what to do. And then I accidentally go too close to the exit, and then the story happens.
I had that with the first
so
or
weird.
second cloister.
It happens at the cloister. It happens at Seymour's house in Guadosalam. A bunch of places it happens, and I don't know why I keep getting fooled by it. It's a weird event flagging device that I don't totally love, but now I sort of think it's funny. So whatever.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's really a good way because we with Trails in the Sky we complained about you had to do certain actions to be able to complete stuff. And so that was confusing because if you missed one but you went through this whole ship looking for stuff, you feel cheated on the experience because you just get frustrated immediately.
Yeah, well, I mean, Falcom games always do that. The East ones too, with just weird event flagging. You have to do exactly this, then this to get this, and sometimes it feels artificial or stupid. But in FF10, I just noticed, I just have to try and go back through the entrance, and then the next story scene happens, and I thought that was quirky, sure.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I just don't know. I personally, I thought about this when we were doing Trials. I couldn't think of the right way to do this because if you try to leave, that seems super weird. You're in a sacred place. They're already upset that you're wandering around. Why would you leave and go to wander around? Of course they're going to get pissed. That shouldn't be an answer. But then also, you shouldn't be obligated to talk to everybody. But if you put it on a timer, maybe you don't get to do everything that you want, or maybe you're stuck there sitting for 3 minutes as it goes down. I don't really know what the right way is to kind of solve that.
Yeah, but I mean, Caitlin was talking about this earlier. This was their first big PS2 effort. I don't think the bouncer counts as an early PS2 effort.
Best Square game ever.
Okay.
Josh is just like throwing out all the controversial.
It's second best. Second best after, Threads of Fate. But
I was gonna go with 10-2.
And the Brave Fencer Musashi sequel.
Oh yeah, they made 2 of those, didn't they?
The first
was
one's
Brave
fantastic.
Was the second
And I
one a
was
remake or a
happy.
sequel?
I think it's a
Who
sequel.
cares?
Yeah,
I never played it.
I honestly have no idea. But whatever. The and Threads of Fate's terrible, by the way. Don't play that. But
So is the sequel to Chrono Trigger.
Oh, stop.
What? Okay, where's that
Okay,
podcast eject button?
Chrono Cross is a lot of things, but it's not terrible.
I hit it under Steven's love letter to Chrono Cross.
A game with music that beautiful can, by definition, not be terrible.
Then I can just sit on my iPod and it'd be just as beautiful.
All music except for the main battle theme, of course, because that sucked.
Ugh.
The boss theme is really good. The it's like something wind or something hurricane. Whatever. We don't. This is not a Chrono Cross podcast. Yeah,
If it was, Steven would be here.
I'm really enjoying derailing you guys, though.
Caitlin mentioned like 25 minutes ago or whatever that this was Square Enix's or Square's first huge effort on the PS2. So they were trying a lot of new things. They made the game more linear. It was in some ways it was experimental for a Final Fantasy game. And okay, I'm not sure where I was going with this originally, but it makes some interesting choices. That's for sure. And not just in the character costumes. Put on some fucking pants, Seymour.
Put on a real dress, Lulu.
Yeah.
Not
So-
one made of belts.
Literally forgot about this.
She has the highest evade in the game, so that dress made of belts is the most efficient clothing in the game, period.
She also has the biggest boobs in the entire game.
Shocker.
And her outfit shows them off.
Mhm.
And
And her victory point pose shows them off, too.
I know, right? She like leans
Yeah.
over and it's like she's flashing someone or something.
It's
So
like, are they weighing her down? Is that comfortable for her?
Improved lighting in the PS4 version.
Yeah, so I was on an airplane. I was flying Southwest, so of course I was like the last person to check in. So I'm literally the last person going on the plane. Have to sit in a middle seat. I sit between like two 75-year-olds, like this cute, really, really, really old couples, and pull out my Vita. I was like, I gotta crank through this. We're gonna have a podcast. Like, gotta get through this.
You
Literally,
gotta be careful cranking it on an airplane.
it turns on, and she just bends over, and they look over, and they look at me. And I like hung my head in shame, turned off the Vita, and pulled out a Kindle. I was like, I guess I'm reading this trip.
Yeah, there are some RPGs that you don't want other people to see you playing. Or, I mean, Final Fantasy X isn't necessarily one of those. But that's just a case of terrible timing.
And I'm actually happy I stopped because I got to my hotel room, fired it back up. Like 5 minutes later, Riku strips, and I was like, that was probably smart for me not to do that on the plane. So, yeah. Actually, not side note. Let's actually talk about the game.
Okay.
I know
Nice.
that sounds crazy.
So Blitzball's great.
I wanted to talk about the game, not something that shouldn't have been included in the game.
Ooh, burn.
But Tish.
So Riku, like, I've always kind of had an issue with how quickly everybody's okay with forgiving her.
Over attempted kidnapping.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically. I mean, obviously she has that secretive conversation with Lulu and Yuna, but it's one of
I'm
those
still
things.
not sure what they talk about during that.
It's-
Just the Albed stuff, or is there more there?
I think it's the fact that Yuna's related to her
Yeah.
dad.
Oh.
And that she was doing it to save her.
All right, and they couldn't tell, and also they were definitely hiding the fact that Riku and Yuna are Albed from Waka.
Because Waka, as we discussed last episode, is kind of racist.
Just a little bit.
I can't believe I was traveling with an Albed, a heathen.
But
Sorry.
beyond all of that, so Yuna's alright, which I get basically everybody's alright with whatever Yuna wants. But this girl just tried to kidnap the most important person of your group. And basically everybody's okay with her sticking around because Titus is like, yo, she saved my life at the beginning. And everybody just drops it. Lets her steal things from monsters.
Good at stealing things from monsters.
And if she's that good at stealing things, she's somebody that you can't trust. Just saying.
Well, but that's a thing that a lot of Final Fantasies do at some point, and it seems to be a trend with the perky character in particular, because
Yeah.
Yuffie, of course, steals all your materia in 7, and then Vanille, in 13, kind of reveals that she was inadvertently responsible for, what's Saja's kid's name? Doge? Not
Bosh?
Doge.
Bosh?
Sorry.
Bosh?
Such sass, much chocolate.
Anyway, for his kid getting made into Sollosi. So, I mean, like, it's interesting how they kind of reused that plot thread.
Yeah, I get. It's Final Fantasy, so I shouldn't be asking questions of why people join groups. But I felt like this one made so much sense. Like, all the other characters basically in your group, for the most part, make sense, except for her. Like,
her
Aron-
joining does come out of nowhere. Not quite as out of nowhere as when Kate Sith basically forces himself on you in FF7.
right, and that's
But we forgive Kate Sith because Kate Sith is a cat riding a Moogle. So.
true that.
I had, when Yuffie joined my party in FF7, this is a side note again, I didn't do the Wutai side quest my first playthrough, so I literally basically just recruited the chick who was stealing all my stuff.
Without going anywhere into her personality or story. Well, I mean, I agree that Riku joining does come out a little bit out of left field, but I mean, she sort of appears and she obviously knows Yuna and Tidus already, which is more of an in than a lot of characters in other RPGs. Like, it didn't bother me a lot.
So
she's the first person he meets when he comes to Spira, and that's more establishment than a lot of these party members tend to get.
Yeah.
right, but
and Yuna seems to know her, and she is eager to help.
literally how it comes across though is like the rest of the females have their little conversation, but all the guys are like, she just stripped. Sure, take her along. Like, that's almost how it is. Like, yep, she's taking her clothes off. We'll keep her.
I don't much care for her outfit to begin with.
It's better than her 10-2 outfit.
Which one?
Yeah. Well, let's just say
The
that
main
all
one.
of their outfits are better than their 10-2 outfits.
I'm really bothered by the 2 ribbons coming off of her shirt.
What is that about?
They seem so unnecessary. Did she really need that extra splash of yellow? I don't think so.
Does it make more sense than Tidus wearing a fishnet on his leg?
There's a lot of things that don't make sense about the wardrobes in FF10 in general. I mean, Tidus's overalls, half shorts, and Seymour's not a shirt, and Lulu's not a dress.
And his fake sunglasses? What are those glasses? Are those reading glasses? He doesn't have to read?
Oh, you mean
Orange?
Orange?
Yeah.
Oh,
Stephen Colbert?
those are just. he does kind of, doesn't he?
I can't be the only one who's seen that, right? Those are memes.
Not until now I didn't.
Oh my, I need this.
Go Google that. Someone did a side-by-side comparison of Oren and Stephen Colbert.
As if Stephen Colbert needed to be more awesome.
Yeah, he's also the best Final Fantasy party member ever.
Yes.
I shouldn't have searched that. This has led to a dangerous. Apparently, my Google Safe search is off, and there's just like deviant art popping up everywhere. So, thanks for that.
You're welcome. I aim to please. Oh God.
Anyways, back to the game, right? Yeah, I don't know. I had an issue with her joining. I mean, obviously, there's the same kind of issue with Tidus. It's like, well, why?
Yeah.
Dude was standing in the middle of the ocean talking crazy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, it's about the same as him joining Yuna's Guardians. They have no reason to trust him. He just literally came out of nowhere.
But
And
Waka has that
kicked
weird
the Blitzball
fascination.
real good.
Yeah, Waka has that weird fascination with him
See,
because of his brother.
That's the reason for Blitzball, is that it gets Waka to trust Tidus and thus starts the story. That's why Blitzball exists.
Sure.
And to give another reason for Tidus to have daddy issues.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like Jack just, demeans him in almost every single one of Tidus' flashbacks, and a lot of them are related to Blitzball.
So, okay. Good. So, daddy issues. Like, what the hell, Arn? Like, hey, I've seen you for 10 seconds since coming back. I'm just gonna tell you, by the way, Sin's your dad. Just walk
Yeah,
away. And then like 4 hours later, be like, by the way, don't tell anybody.
yeah, that is weird. I think I mentioned that in the last episode, but it in a way, it's pulling the rug out from under the player. Like, wait a second, what do you mean Sin is eject? Like, it doesn't make sense to Tidus or the player, and it doesn't really make sense at all until almost the end of the game. But I mean, I think it does give you a little bit of additional context. Like, at least after Orin tells that to Tidus can be like, so that's my old man. What are you doing under there, old man? Like, and it sort of just gives him another thing to think about.
In a
But
better story, they would have waited till the end. Sin would have been like, Titus, I am your father. Bit off his hand. They would have ended with him screaming, and then Final Fantasy X-2,
Well,
they come
yeah,
back.
that's
No.
incredible.
In Final Fantasy X-2, they go to a forest planet full of little woodland creatures and save them. And
Lots of little blue bears.
Sure.
I thought that was the plot of 10-2.
Oh god.
What game did I play?
I think though that part of the reason why they had to have that reveal so early is that part of Tidus' story is coming to reconcile with his father in time to
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
know,
a part of.
deal with him. And if it had been revealed later, there wouldn't have been enough time for him to have, said, "Oh well, you kind of sucked as a dad, but I love you. Bye bye." It just would have felt forced.
I also think there's an element that around the time that whole conversation happens, Titus is basically planning on leaving. And I think Arn has him on the hook then, that he has to at least stick around to know what's going on, and that eventually he gets more drawn into everything.
Oh, so you don't believe that Yuna, like from the first glance, was enough to keep Tidus around?
If he was smart, he'd have gone after Riku. There's that whole question of like, I can't remember, like Riku asks him a question, and you can say like, yeah, I guess, or like he says something like, I'm more interested in you, or whatever.
No, I think Lulu asks. Isn't he speaking to Lulu I thought he was talking to Lulu or Waka, and then he basically has to answer the question, which one's your type?
Yeah, that. Yep.
And yeah, I guess that gets a little weird, but I think that Tidus's daddy issues are. It might be a little bit reductive calling them daddy issues, but like him seeking closure with his dad is a really important part of the game, and I think that Orin telling Tidus that Sin is eject is a valuable plot point to confuse the player a little bit, but also every time Sin appears, having that additional context and making you think about what the hell Sin is and what the hell eject is doing, like with each of those encounters. I think it's an interesting decision that the writers did that, but yeah, maybe it would have been better if they didn't do that, but still had Tidus with eject flashbacks every time Sin appeared. Maybe I don't know.
And he would just like slowly realize on his own.
Yeah, I actually think it would have been cooler if there was small hints of things, kind of like, which I actually don't know this because I don't remember this from when I played through. Arn's dead, right?
Yeah, he's unsent.
Yeah, like that would have been such a cooler reveal. Like that they play that up. There's enough hints that you think there's something wrong, or you can make a guess, but it's not ever confirmed.
Well, it's like
No, it's
selective though in the
definitely
way it works, because there are other sendings that occur when him present. It doesn't affect him until the end of the game.
No, it does
matter.
affect. It does affect him when Yuna sends what's his name, Jiskel.
Yeah, he struggles.
Yeah, like Oron visibly is in pain.
Like
while
he is
that's
not.
happening, and
he is not doing well.
And he refuses to walk into the far plane with everyone else when they visit around that same point of the game.
See, I told you I was gonna make a mistake because I don't remember.
No. Well, no, it's fine. And
It's okay.
and there's another part later in the game in Befell Temple where Yuna's about to do a sending, and there's other characters present who are unsent, who sort of like talk her out of doing it. The Orin reveal I thought was one of the cooler reveals, even though it's that's much further than where we were supposed to have stopped.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think that's successful because there's hints. They play coy with you, whereas there isn't even a chance for you to have any animosity towards Sin, any feeling whatsoever. For you, and then you're just like, oh, by the way, the thing that's evil, is also your dad, who you already thought was evil. You're like, oh, well, it would have been so much better if they had, you start to understand who Sin is, you go through these flashbacks with Jack, just get to the point that you're like, maybe he wasn't just a terrible person, and then you find out that he's Sin. Because then you have this emotional turmoil of, well, there's this mishmash of everything. Whereas at the point where you're told he's evil in both regards, so you don't care.
Well, I mean, you do care a little bit. It reinforces Tidus's feelings and makes him even more determined to save Yuna and to help Yuna defeat Sin. But then once it comes out exactly how that happened and what the nature of being a summoner is, that's what creates the emotional turmoil. I think it was mostly an interesting decision to reveal that Sin is Jekt so early. But I agree that maybe instead of having the reveal and then building to the encounter, just teasing the reveal and building to the reveal may have been better. But that's playing a weird what-if game that I don't know if it's worth playing.
Fair enough.
I do think it was interesting, though, that they kind of connect Tidus, Auron, and Jekt together. That all three of them, for one reason or another, did not belong in that world. And of course, you don't realize with Tidus until, pretty much the end of the game. But it was an interesting way to connect the three because they're the only three characters that we know of that exist in the prologue in Zanarkand.
That's really interesting. I never actually thought of it that way. That's actually super interesting.
Yeah. Subtle, but interesting.
And see, that's I lean towards I'd much rather have just subtle, and I enjoy that.
I mean, Final Fantasy doesn't. I'm not gonna say Final Fantasy never does subtle, but it's not their. It's not.
It
their,
occasionally does subtle.
Subtlety is not their strong suit.
And 10, if we're being honest, for all its like cinematic bombast, there is a lot of little detail and care and attention put into all these little facets of the world that you don't always see.
Yeah, but I still wish it had a world map, dude.
I know it all comes back to the world map.
That's definitely a complaint from 2002 or something. But
I'll give you the world map when you get rid of Blitzball.
Well, I don't care about the world map anymore, guys. Gotta keep Blitzball.
I will give you all of those things as soon as you get rid of the Cloister Trials.
I may or may not have looked at Kilika Beast shirts on Etsy or something.
Seriously?
Yeah, Kilika Beasts are the best. My team now has, I think, 3 beasts on it, and I'm trying to recruit a 4th. I'm scouting out a 4th member of the beasts.
We've come full circle, ladies and gentlemen. About Blitzball again.
I don't even know what to say to you anymore.
You know, other interesting thing about Blitzball, each one of the teams has their own team identity that you don't really understand until you play. Like how the Ronso Fangs all have terrible speed but awesome endurance and tackling, and and how the Kilika Beasts are the worst team at the beginning of the game, but around level 40 or 50, they have the highest stats in the game.
Wait, you've played up to the point that you have level 40 and 50 players?
Wow.
Right, my highest level player is right around 45 to 50. Yeah.
I just want to point out that you are announcing this on a podcast that will forever exist.
Sure.
And that shame should follow you the rest of your life.
Whatever, Blitzball's great. Histories will side with me.
So,
as long as we're rectifying our past mistakes, I can't find that Stephen Colbert Auron picture anymore. The internet has failed me. I'm going to defend myself by saying that I have really weird friends.
The internet's a hell of a place.
Internet's a hell of a drug.
So, alright. I find it interesting that you can level up on Blitzball, but you can't technically level up as a person in the world versus Sphere Grid.
So maybe secretly deep down, the reason I love Blitzball is because it lets me level up like I'm playing an old Final Fantasy again.
Yeah, and that actually, I remember really liking the Sphere Grid, and this time around, it's starting to annoy me. In a combination with the weapons, it super annoys me.
Are you playing advanced or standard? I know we went over this last time.
I'm playing standard.
Okay, because I'm using the advanced Sphere Grid on this playthrough, like I mentioned last time, and I I don't know if I like it more, but it does give you a lot more freedom to build your characters early on. So like my Yuna is basically Lulu 2.0 right now.
I agree with Peter. I think the advancement's way better. I had Oron switch to Tidus's track around the 2/3 mark just to teach him Hastiga and give him more speed. It's great. I really like the options it presents.
So I really like that. I like the options that Sphere gives. I actually enjoy that. The issue I guess I have is it doesn't. I would like on top of that, and also kind of with the weapons, to actually be gaining, like, there to be stats of like you gained this, you gained this, you gained this on top of just the sphere grid. So like I'm having a hell of a time. I don't know what weapons to equip because when I look at it, it just gives me abilities. It doesn't give me like, oh, this weapon's stronger.
Right. The weapon system I can give you is a little bit weird because you're more giving. It's more that you have a base weapon and you're giving abilities onto it, and that turns it into a different weapon. Right,
and then I think I switched, because obviously you're gaining strength, you're gaining speed, all of that through the sphere grid. I can respect that, and I think I'm probably taking some of my disappointment in the weapons over to that. But I wish there was more progression, I guess, with the characters.
That's fair enough.
And it is a little weird that the weapon that Waka gives Tidus right at the beginning is like a usable, viable endgame weapon. Like,
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a little weird that they're like, I mean, in RPGs I'm used to like progressive, like throughout the game, getting more weapons that get generally stronger and generally grant more abilities. But in FF10, they don't really have hard stats, like Josh mentioned, and aren't always even better. I almost never changed weapons until I got to the point where I am now and just did like weird monster arena farming.
No. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little confusing for me, and it was frustrating at times because of that as well. Because obviously when I get into a battle and I understand that there's a fire, that everybody's fire, I need to equip things so it's water or ice. Like that type of stuff makes sense. But I also would have liked on top of that to have tiers of weapons as you progressed, to feel like you were actually gaining something instead of just an extra ability.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would prefer it if it had hard stats attached to it as well, but the weapon system didn't bother me as much as some other things that I've already gone into.
It's functional. I think it feels a little half baked, but it does. It's mostly effective for what it tries to do, I guess.
Okay. I feel like I got that off my chest. I'm good now.
Well, sort of on a semi-related segue, talking about battles, I'm curious how you guys generally ran your battles, because you can swap out characters in battle, and as long as they do something, everyone gets experience. And I tended to try and do that, at least especially in boss battles, but even sometimes in random battles, just to get everyone in at least one move to spread out experience a little bit.
I do that.
I still do that except for Kimahri.
I do that.
Nobody likes Kimahri.
I do that except for Kimahri and Yuna. I barely ever use Yuna.
I use Yuna all the time.
Yeah, because she makes her Aeon stronger.
I don't really use Aeons. I've been using Waka, Riku, and Oron for almost every fight, and only switching in Lulu when there's an elemental weakness.
So I do every person in every fight, every time.
Including Kimahri?
Every single person.
I do not do that.
What's the problem with Kimahri?
Kimahri's a stupid blue bear.
I like Kimahri.
Worthless.
I like Kimahri as a character, but his thing on the old Sphere Grid was that he doesn't really have a specialty, so he's not as useful as other characters. I've heard that people say that they fixed that for the international version. I don't think so. If anything, he's worse.
I think it's basically the same. He's still a step behind every other character, and even if it gives you the freedom to go whichever path you want, I guess, but that just makes him a less good version of a different character.
It just makes him a clone.
He's a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
And, well, he's not really good at any of them.
Yeah, that's why.
And like you can some of his like limit breaks, his monster abilities are useful in random encounters, but he can't get like special boss attacks or anything, can he?
Some of those are like, yes, he can, but those are all late game, and overdrive if his overdrive like filled up faster and let him use blue magic more, I think, or Ronso Rage more, then it would be better. But it's not meaningfully better than what other characters can do.
Yeah,
So-
that's really the problem with Kamari.
One of the things I was thinking of that would be super, super intriguing with Kamari is if he technically was not on the sphere grid at all, whatsoever. But based off of whoever he used the Lancet on, he would gain attributes from them. So like as he's fighting, he'd still gain the experience, and where like everybody else gets their little I got a ball. When that occurred, you would look at you have fought like 3 strength guys, 1 fire guy, and a water guy. Will give you 2 in strength and 1 in magic. And then all of his abilities he also gained from stealing from other people. So he was like a complete, just like he was a mime of whatever you came across.
That could be interesting.
It would make it so he'd be absolutely horrific at the beginning of the game.
But then an absolute boss at the end.
Yeah, he could get some really interesting and really fun stuff later on.
Yeah, that would have been kind of an interesting evolution of like the junction system from 8, where you got your magic by fighting different kinds of enemies, and so depending on what enemy you fought, you get better magic or different magic, and that would have been kind of an interesting throwback if they had gone that way.
He could have gained fire abilities. He could have gained water, so he could have had all of that, so he could be there. He gained various strength. I thought it would have been an interesting twist instead of having him dead set in the middle. It seemed like they had space for everybody else on the sphere grid except for him, so just pop him out and give him an interesting twist.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't have an interesting twist. He doesn't really have any advantage that makes it, from a gameplay perspective, that makes him meaningfully better than a different character for any situation. So, I mean, I think it makes sense that a lot of people ignore him, which is a bummer. But
he does have the best character theme in the game. Not sorry. That is People of the Far North, which plays when you meet his tribe.
Oh, okay, that is a good song. I didn't really think of the game having character themes.
I mean, it's not like it only plays in that one portion, so it's not necessarily a character theme, but I associate it with him because that's his tribe or whatnot. So
the Ronsos also have the best rendition of the Hymn of the Faith once you meet them.
Oh yeah, they do.
Mhm.
That part rules.
That and Unalesca's version of the song is great too, because it's supposed to be all the faiths combining the song.
Yeah, I've never gotten that far. I don't think.
I don't remember where I heard that, but I think it's supposed to be like all of the faiths mixed, so they're all like speaking out against Unalesca.
And that was an interesting thing too for them to have. It's the same theme, just different voices. Some are women, some are men. Different vocal parts to sort of represent the different temples and the different aeons by extension. I thought that was a really interesting thing that they did to sort of use the music to thematically tie into what you're doing in the gameplay. And then, like you said, to have it all joined together in this one really weird but interesting choral piece.
Yeah, for sure.
So, does anybody else have massive complaints, praise, anything that everybody like struck anybody else that they wanted to talk about?
I think despite all the problems that I have complained about in this game, I do really love this game.
Oh,
I think that says something.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed this 100 times more than Trails in the Sky, which I know is not saying much. But it's one of those. Going back to this, I remember why I really enjoyed this game.
And any additional major comments I have are probably better saved for the next episode. But in general, I am warmer on this game now than I was 10 years ago when I first played it. And Blitzball is great. Yep.
Is it just because of Blitzball?
No, I'm going into it with more of an open mind, because I think when I played it a while ago, I resented that it wasn't as much like as similar to the older Final Fantasy games as it was. But now I'm just sort of appreciating the beauty of it and trying to get a little deeper into the systems. Like I actually got all the Aeons this time and a couple Celestial weapons, which I didn't do back then. I just sort of rushed to the ending when I got the airship when I first played it. And I'm appreciating how deep this game is, or how deep the end game stuff is, and how beautiful it is. I'm just stunned at how great, at how shiny and pretty the game is, even though it was made 14 years ago.
Yeah, it looks really, definitely the HD remaster, so it looks fantastic.
It's kind of funny though. Obviously I'm not playing it now because of reasons, but I remember I picked it up like maybe 5 or so years ago for whatever reason and started playing it, and I loved it when I first played it when it came out, but for some reason when I picked it up again 7-10 years later, I didn't enjoy it as much. I even remember thinking, holy crap, why did I like this so much? And I don't know if it was just, maybe that was just a bad time for me to play the game, or if it was that my gaming sensibilities had changed by that point. You get older, you come back to things, and either you like them more, or maybe you're like, this wasn't all that. But I remember having that reaction to the game, and I wish I could be playing it right now to see if it would happen again, if I would come back and say, it wasn't all that good, or if I would be like, yes! Why did I ever doubt this masterpiece?
You have like a week to power through it if you want to be on the final podcast for this.
I'd like to, but I don't have a copy anymore.
Nah, just get to Luca and then play a bunch of Blitzball, and then your feelings will be much, much more positive on it.
We want Caitlin to come back to the podcast.
Yeah. And she needs all our time for next month's game, which will be
next month's game.
Drum roll. So this is going to be the first community kind of picked. We went through the forums and whatnot, picked out I think it was 4 games that you guys decided on. Tried to take some of the more popular ones that you guys liked, and then we kind of internally said, what do we want to play? And we ended up deciding on Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yep.
Yay!
Which
that's actually not in Final Fantasy Tactics, but
I know.
it's more like.
Hey, I haven't played Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm going to be playing along with this show.
Whoa!
Wow.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, no, I've never actually played it. I have it on my Vita, and it is.
Oh, that's
waiting.
fascinating.
It's so good.
That's fascinating. I can't wait to hear a first-time player's perspective on this. That's because Final Fantasy Tactics is one of my all-time favorite games. I don't think I'm gonna be on next month's recording of talking about it, but that'll be a really cool to hear from a first-time player.
Yeah, we're still working out like a crew. I'll fill in if someone needs to, but yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite games of all time too. So I'm really excited to go back to it. I haven't played it since the first time I played it. So I'm interested to see if it lives up to the hype.
I've played it a lot, obviously PS1 and then PSP, and I have it on my phone, and then I just for next month's playthrough I bought it on my Vita, and I've been getting through the first chunk of it so we can all be prepared to talk about it.
Awesome.
I have spent an unconscionable amount of time playing the PS1 version. I made calculator builds. I did a low faith team with everyone's faith below 20. I leveled characters up to 99 just so I could do the ninja catch trick to catch rare swords from the ninjas in the underworld area. There are so many hilarious ways to break that game. It is so much fun. You're in for a real experience, Peter.
Unlike your
Awesome.
obsession with Blitzball, I can agree with your obsession here.
Yeah, now you sound sane. So everybody should get excited for that.
So, how do we feel about Blitzball coming to FF14?
All right.
I was just saying, how do we feel about Blitzball coming to FF14?
Final Fantasy 15
Oh,
needs
no.
Blitzball.
If they could improve on it and make it actually fun, I'm all for it. Although that's an interesting story. How would you explain Blitzball in the world of Eorzea? I don't know.
They already have a gold saucer and triple triad, so I don't even know.
Yeah.
Lightning showed up in Eorzea, for crying out loud.
It's because Lightning is a god.
That's true, and you know there's going to be a Final Fantasy 15 reference at some point.
My friend and I have this theory that Lightning is going to be the new secret boss in Kingdom Hearts 3. That she's going to kill Sephiroth and replace him. And then she's going...
So it'll be
going
like
to
the
be literally-
Disgaea games where the secret bosses are always characters from previous games.
Yeah, it'll be that, except like no one will see it coming. And Lightning will just show up out of nowhere and be like, "Hi, we're going to throw down now."
I want to see Lightning just randomly on your home island.
Lightning's just like the new girl at Destiny Island.
Go to the other side of the island and be like,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
you've just been here the whole time. Okay.
You calling
hey.
her the new girl is having me imagine Zoe Deschanel as Lightning.
Oh no! Why would you do that?
That's terrifying.
I haven't played Final Fantasy 13. I don't really have a reference point to start with except for Dissidia
Okay, well,
12.
Lightning and Zoe Deschanel could not be more different people.
Oh yeah, we have to end this now. I can't handle that.
Yeah.
Broke my mind. Oh,
Can't
yeah.
imagine Lightning quirkily singing Beach Boys songs in a commercial for Spotify or something.
Maybe in Lightning Returns.
I want to like Lightning, not like her less.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Caitlin. Caitlin needs to be on more podcasts. She actually agrees with me on everything.
Aw, I love you too.
If we ever do a Final Fantasy 12 episode, I'm worried the two of you will just be too positive on it.
Hey, finally we wouldn't get yelled at for being too negative, so.
All right.
We'll bring Davy on. He can fill in some negativity for FF12. He's not here. I can talk about him, right?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Hi,
That's
Davy. You
cool.
have fabulous hair.
And he's not even going to do all the editing, so he might never hear it.
Oh.
So that's going to do it for episode 2.2 of Retro Encounter. We should actually be recording again very shortly for 2.3, so that should be coming out soon. In the meantime, you guys can write on the boards, say anything that you have to say. We'll, like we do at Trails, we'll go through a bunch of the comments. And if you guys send any emails to retro@rpgfan.com, we'll do our best to go through and read all of those as well. So send us your ideas. Like we said, get ready for next month's game, which will be Final Fantasy Tactics. That will do it for us. You guys can say goodbye.
Oh, okay. Goodbye. Play Blitzball.
Bye.
Go Beasts.
Blitz off!
Don't play Blitzball. Play Heaven's Word.
Was that
Bitchball?
bitch ball?
Like me.
I heard bitch ball.
I actually also heard Bitchball.
Well, I think we have a swear allowance, right? And I don't think we've actually.
I don't think we dipped into it.
No,
Oh,
we did. But I said one and Josh said one.
Oh, I said more than one.
Okay.
I always put us way over. I'm the reason that we have explicit tag.
Well, we'll just have to put money into the swear jar
Wait,
until
we
we can
actually have an explicit tag now?
Yeah.
We do? Oh god.
Sorry, guys.
Mother.
Okay.
That's why. So I think it was supposed to make me feel bad and do it less, but it just made me swear more. So.
Oh, it's okay now? Great.
Yeah, that was me. Now it's just completely okay for me to do as much as I want. So, all right, that will do it for 2-2.